everyone, good morning and welcome back again to another edition of Moment with Lulu. If you're new to the channel, please make sure you're subscribed so you always get notifications whenever I put up a new video. And for all my returning subscribers, thank you so much for always coming back to grace my channel. Thank you so much for always coming back to look at this beautiful face. So today's video is gonna be me talking about the cost of studying in Canada. I'm gonna be using my province, Alberta, specifically because there's just too many universities in Canada as a whole. Like, I'm just gonna, be more specific to my area, my region, where I stay, where I reside. But then again, what I say is gonna be, for the most part, be applicable to many other provinces in Canada. We have some universities, maybe like up to 10 or so. But in my list today, I've only accumulated, I think, 8 universities I'll be talking about. I'm gonna put their tuition cost on the screen for all of you to see as I go through this video. We're going to be exploring the fees in terms of like the first year of your program as a student. And mind you, tuition fees are based on a lot of things other than like what you're going to school for, okay? And this video, what I'm mostly hinting on is the first year of study. So how much it costs to move to Canada to study first year program. So in this video, we're going to be talking about IELTS, we'll be talking about university application fee, we'll be talking about study permits, work permits, biometric fee, rent, grocery, phone bill, and other miscellaneous expenses that one might need to consider. So without further ado, we're going to dive right into this video. So as you can see on the screen, I've uploaded 8 universities: Concordia University of Edmonton, the King's University, Athabasca University, University of Lethbridge, McEwan University, Mount Royal University, University of Calgary, and University of Alberta. Mind you, these are not the only universities in Edmonton. There's also other universities that I haven't put on this list, but this is just what I decided to put, and this just gives you a general idea of what the tuition is. And for the most part, these are accurate. Like, these are for like the current academic semester into the next year, which is 2022. And mind you, you can see the University of Alberta is the very last one on the list, which is the province university. And this is specific to undergraduate education. I don't look into anything like related to graduate studies, because undergraduate education is the most important, the very first one that's important for people to get, or people want, before even thinking of a master's degree or a PhD program, okay? I'm just gonna tell you that what makes up the tuition is beyond the course credits, okay? So again, the higher the course credits, the more tuition you're gonna pay, the more fees you're gonna pay in tuition, okay? And as an international student, you need to be studying full-time for the most part, unless otherwise granted by your program or your faculty. But for the most part, this is tuition for like a full-time international student on a study permit, okay? So this is how much you pay, and this is different for each program. Programs like engineering are really, really expensive, because I was going through the cost calculator. So how I came about with this table was I was going through the cost calculator for each of this school, and I was also going according to Statistics Canada to come up with these values you see here. So I didn't just make them up, okay? I didn't just make them up, and they're very realistic. Using myself as a reference for what I paid in tuition, this table is super, super realistic, especially the one at the University of Alberta. And just to say, even those who are considering engineering, that is almost going to like $40,000 in tuition per annum, so per academic session. It's just something to know that your tuition is dependent on your program, it's dependent on like instructional and non-instructional fees that's added to your tuition. So when I say non-instructional fees, that simply means, let's say, fees like student association, health and dental insurance, athletics and recreation, students' mental health and well-being. Like, there's just some fees that are inbuilt with your tuition, but they do list all of these, even your U-Pass, like your transit pass to get on the bus, to get on the train. These are also included as part of your tuition, and they also have cost on its own, and that's what is included in my table right here. So it's not just the instructional fees, it's both the instructional and the non-instructional fees. So I'm also gonna go ahead to talk about the IELTS. So something else to consider is the IELTS, and you might see yourself paying $300 and something for this. As of right now that I'm speaking, the cost of IELTS is $320. Another thing one might want to consider in terms of like studying in Canada is the application fee, the university application fee. This is very different from your study permit or your work permit application fees, okay? This costs $125 specifically I know at the University of Alberta, and it could range anywhere from like $120 to $150 across universities in Canada, and this is just dependent on the university, okay? But again, this is for undergraduate fees. Bear in mind that the fees for undergraduate application is more than the fees for graduate application, just the way the fees for graduate studies is less than the fees for undergraduate. So undergraduate is usually more expensive, and your first year, bear in mind, will be the most expensive academic session in your whole university education as an undergraduate student. The next thing that's going to add to your cost of study in Canada is your study permit and your work permit. So you need to know that your study permit is something you pay for, and that cost right now it's a $150 amount for your study permit. And if you decide that, you know, I want a work permit in addition to my study permit, you would have to pay an extra $155 according to Immigration Canada. And the other thing you have to consider while coming to study in Canada is a biometric fee. And the biometric fee as of right now is $85. And the good thing is that you don't even need a biometric if you ever have to like renew your work permit in like 2 years, or if you have to renew your study permit in 2 years. That is because the biometric is for 10 years. So biometric is just your fingerprint, like a thumbprint. It's $85. It's something you do once in 10 years. So if I'm going to be applying for my, let's say I'm applying for a postgraduate work permit, I'm applying to renew my study permit or renew my work permit, or applying for like a permanent residence, it's gonna be free. Like, I don't need to pay for any biometric because I already did the one-time payment that's gonna last me for 10 years. And if I choose to apply for another government document in 10 years time when my biometric is expired, I'm gonna have to pay. Like, let's say if I got a biometric in 2016, 10 years from 2016 will be 2026. That's when I'll probably have to pay another biometric fee and get my biometrics, okay? So that's just something to note for you all. And something else you need to consider is rent. Rent is super important, depending on whether you want to live on campus versus off campus. These are things you need to take into consideration. And honestly, I never lived on campus. I don't know what it feels or how it is to live on campus, because I already had a sister here, and so we got an apartment together off campus. So for the most part, I would say certainly that living on campus is more expensive than living off campus. You can expect yourself to get your rent for like anywhere from $800 to $1,500, depending on whether you're looking for a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom or a shared room or a shared housing situation. So that's something you need to take it into consideration, and especially for those who probably don't have families like me. If you don't have families here, when I say $800 to $150,000, I'm also including other expenses like utilities, like electricity, internet, heat. Like, all of that is included in the $800 to $1,500 Canadian dollars. All the values on my table, all the values I'm mentioning here are all in Canadian dollars and not in US dollars. That's just something to note. I didn't tell you that the renting situation is on a monthly basis. So the $800 to $1,500 Canadian dollars I talked about is something that you would expect to pay on a monthly basis. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is your feeding and grocery expenses. So expect yourself to be spending anywhere from $100, $150 up to $200 in a month, depending on how frugal you are with your expenses and your grocery. And you know, it just depends on the individual too. And also the rent and grocery, especially the grocery, is very variable. Why I say the rent and grocery is variable, because in terms of rent, for things like utilities, like electricity, is something that can change per month because it's based on how much you're using, how much you're using as a household. Depends on how much heat you're using, how much air conditioner you're using, how much gas, you know, things like that, how much light you're using. So that would be that could be variable in some months. And for grocery, there might be some things that you have this month that you don't need next month, and there's some things you need next month that you don't necessarily need this month, and there are just some things that you might buy at different points of the year. And food can be also expensive at different points of the year, depending on how much is supply or demand there are in the market, and the season as well. That also has an effect on the price of grocery items, okay? And the next thing on my list is miscellaneous expenses per month. That is something that everyone would have to take into consideration. So you need to think about other things that might pop up that you don't even plan for, right? It's just like having pocket money or emergency funds. So it's something you might think about, like $500 like every month to be saved up for your miscellaneous expenses, because trust me, these things are going to pop up. They might ask you to get something in school, or you might just need, let's say, to cab somewhere on a particular day, or you might just need something miscellaneous. You know what miscellaneous is, so that's something to take into consideration. And something to note is that all of these schools that I've had on this table are all IRCC approved, so they're all approved by Immigration Canada, in the sense that if you graduate from either or any of these schools, you are eligible to go ahead and apply for a postgraduate work permit, or an open work permit as some people call it. In a year, as your first year student, or this is your very first year in Canada, you should see yourself spending anywhere between $35,000 and 40,000 Canadian dollars just for your first year. And this is based on all of these things that I've put together and listed for you all. So we talked about IELTS, which might cost you $320. We talked about university application fee, which will cost you $125 Canadian dollars. And we talked about study permit and work permit fee, which could cost you $150 for a study permit and $155 for a work permit. We talked about the biometric fee, which is $85, and you don't need a biometric for 10 years, and if you need to apply for something in the future, in like after 10 years, you might need to get a biometric and pay the fee again. And we also talked about rent, which could vary between $800 and $1,500 per month, like every month, keeping in mind that there might be other bills like electricity, utilities, heat, water, whatever is included in the bill, okay? And something we also talked about is your phone bill. So you could get phone bill anywhere from $35 to $120 per month. This could be you maybe bringing in your own phone and getting a plan for yourself, or buying a phone from the provider and having like a stipulated amount of money you have to pay instrumentally every month. We also talked about feeding or groceries, which could cost you anywhere from $100 to $200 per month. And we also talked about the miscellaneous expenses, which you could, you know, attribute maybe like $500 to every month, just because you just never know what might pop up in your life and what you might need. So this is just something to take into consideration, okay? So yeah, that brings me to the end of today's video. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave your questions in the comment section of this video. I hope you found value in this video. So if you're looking to come to study here as an international student, you need to know that it's costly, it's expensive, and you know, it's a lot of money just because you're an international student. You can expect to be paid up to 100 or something thousand for a 4-year program, okay? And it's no joke. So this is just something to note. Plan your finances, have your finances in order. Finance is a very, very big part of your experience in Canada as an international student, and it's something that's going to affect you in a lot of ways depending on how well you plan or how well you don't. I hope you found value in this video. Don't forget to leave your questions, comments in the comment section of this video, and I'll see you all in my next video.